Hi, my name is McHenry, and I am doing my book review on A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. This book was first published in 1955, and let me tell you, it hasn't lost any of its significance since then. It's a great read, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I've read many stories about the Titanic before and seen the movies, and this one just topped them all. You know, it's a very awesome story and a recollection of both tragedy and survival. A Night to Remember explains minute-by-minute details of what happened on April 14th, 1912, after the Titanic's collision with the iceberg. You know, and through a massive collection of details, Walter Lord is able to weave a story that makes you feel like you're visualizing what is happening to these people aboard the ship. And at points, I could literally feel myself holding my breath, wondering what was going to happen next, even though in reality, I know what's going to happen next. And, you know, A Night to Remember is written in a way that forces you to be able to ignore the impact of what is actually happening within the pages of the book and just focus, you know, strongly on the story. In this book, there's so many diverse people fighting for their lives aboard the ship. And Walter Lord does not ignore any of them. He highlights the differences in class structure and how certain people had a greater advantage over others when it came to survival. I enjoyed his analysis of class snobbery and attitudes of the time that led to a higher percentage of deaths among the third class passengers versus the first and second class passengers. He also highlights how strongly possible that this whole tragedy could have been avoided. For example, you know, the ship, the Californian, was 10 or so miles away from the Titanic when it sank. You know, yet they didn't pay attention to any of the distress calls or the rockets, and, you know, they didn't even attempt to help or provide any assistance until after the ship, the Carpathia, was able to arrive. And, you know, in this book there were so many quotes that really gave me the chills regarding, you know, how this could have been prevented, such as if the boat would have turned 15 to 30 seconds before it did, or if it was going slower. You know, there's just so many different things that could impact the result of what happened on that night. Walter Lord, in this book, he gives a broader perspective of the ship and the examination of the safety policy that was, you know, supposed to take place, and of the social and political norms that gave us an insight on how this event marked a global psychological shift within society. Another thing really through this book that gave me the chills, at the end, Walter Lord includes a list of all of the people aboard the ship, and the names of the survivors were in italics. And let me tell you, there were far more people's names not in italics than there were names in italics. And, you know, it's very, very sad to realize that the rescue ship was only able to rescue less than 1/3 of the Titanic's total passengers, including people that got on the little rescue boats. You know, especially when they show that some families were erased from history because of this ordeal. You know, honestly, A Night to Remember, it's more than just another book about the sinking of the Titanic. You know, it's truly a great book, and there were times when I was reading that I felt like I was there, like I was ready to put on my life jacket and jump on a boat, because the visuals that he was able to create in my head through the text were just, they were truly wonderful. You know, um, this book, it wanders from person to person and place to place, and it really recreates one of the most famous disasters of all times. This is a nonfiction book, and it felt more like a novel than the short book that it was, that I could read over and over and over because it was that interesting. If you haven't read this book, I strongly recommend it to anybody who is interested at all in the Titanic, because it will really spark an interest in you. This book was very easy to read, easy to get through, and I highly recommend it. So that's my book review on A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. Thank you.